9 News Plus weather sponsored by Carrier Colorado. The future of home comfort is here.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi on this Monday, November the 7th. And I know those sunsets way earlier now. 4:51 p.m. sunset, 4:50 p.m. sunset tonight for us here in Denver. But I do have some good news to pass along, and I've got kind of two bits of good news to pass along. One, we got some pretty nice weather over the next few days, and two, the mountains, we've gotten off to a great start. It's a start, but we've gotten off to a really nice start in terms of our snow season. Up into the higher terrain, we've got more snow on the way for higher elevations later on this week. And there's a look at some of those. This is Rocky Mountain National Park at the Alpine Visitor Center. This is about 11,000 feet in elevation. You can see all that beautiful fresh snowfall. We had a few inches of snow up in Rocky, mostly on Saturday, back over the weekend. So we did get a reinforcing shot of snow into the higher terrain, and then come Wednesday night and Thursday, we'll get some more snow into the high terrain as well. And this is going to continue our great start to the season. I'm going to have more context on that here in just a second, but trust me, it has been a nice start to the snow season in higher elevations. For today, though, it's mainly breezy and mild for us here in the Denver area. It is warmer for the middle of the week, and then including today, I suppose, but tomorrow and Wednesday in particular, it'll be pretty warm. And then more mountain snow later this week, and we do have a chance for some snow here in the Denver area. Wouldn't exactly be too impressed with those snow chances here in town, though. It doesn't look as promising as what we saw last week when we had 4.5 inches of snow officially out at DIA last Thursday night. Winds are a story. As I mentioned, we're going to be on the breezy side, especially northwest and eastern Colorado. So kind of up by Craig as well as Meeker. Those are going to be the areas that are going to be on the blustery side for today, and then also along and east of a line of, say, Fort Morgan and Deer Trail. And that's where you're going to be seeing those winds really on the stronger side today as well. Those winds back off in northwest Colorado tonight, but in eastern Colorado, for our friends out on the plains, it does look like a pretty gusty evening, and those winds will continue into tomorrow. At times for us in the Denver area, for most of the metro area, it's been breezy, but not terribly windy. Shouldn't be all that bad for the rest of our day today. Now, in terms of those temperatures, 45 for us here in Denver. We did drop down to a low of 35 this morning. It's pretty typical for this time of year. Nothing too wild about these temperatures at this point. But notice Grand Junction, our warm spot at 61. That is some of the warmer air that's going to push its way east later on today, and also kind of more into our day tomorrow, as we're going to feel that kind of warmth out on the western slope. What the western slope seeing now, we'll see that here along the Front Range for our day tomorrow and our Wednesday. Tonight, temperatures drop back into the upper 30s. Seasonably chilly, nothing too wild about this. It is breezy at times through the day and tonight, especially as you get east of town. But again, winds not as strong as they were back on Saturday when we were dealing in some cases in the foothills with 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts, something like that over the next little while. HD Doppler radar showing just a little bit in the way of some cloud cover for the far eastern plains, especially from about Greeley on east. That is pushing its way off to the north and east. That's in association with a weak storm system that is moving its way off to our north and our east. In the meantime, today looking like a pretty sunny day statewide. I know we had a fair bit of cloud cover through the weekend across the state, especially northern parts of Colorado. Today and tonight looking a lot sunnier and generally a bit more tranquil. But then tomorrow we'll see some bits of cloud cover. High of 69 for us here in Denver. So this is about 12 degrees above what we would expect for this time of year. Our average high for today is 57. So we're talking about those highs near 70 degrees. It's getting close to about 15 degrees above the norm for this time of year. And statewide, it is a warm one with those temps in the 70s, even near 80 degrees for some spots on the eastern plains. In the mountains, a lot of 40s and 50s. Again, about 10 to 15 degrees above the norm. That will melt off some of that snow we picked up back over the weekend. But as I mentioned, we got more snow en route later on this week. And it's courtesy of this storm system, this big area of low pressure that's going to, it's already leading to some pretty heavy rain and snow for us in the Pacific Northwest, as well as into British Columbia. Vancouver, British Columbia doesn't get a ton of snow, but they did see some today. And that same storm system that brought them some of that rain and snow, that's going to move its way in our direction. But it looks like the system stays too far north for us to see pretty big impacts in the Denver area. Some of the computer models, like the GFS, trying to push this a little further south, but I think this does stay too far north for really big impacts across the metro area, but we're still keeping an eye on that. I think what this will end up leading to is a fair bit of mountain snowfall, especially along and north of I-70. But for us in the Denver area, maybe a bit of snow on Thursday morning. That'd be our main time window for any snowfall here across the metro area. But again, I'm not too impressed with those snow chances here in town. The further north you go, the better your snow chances will be as we get into your Thursday morning. I do think, again, there's a pretty decent chance we do end up with a little bit of snow here in Denver, but I'm not all that impressed. About 7 inches for us, though, in Steamboat. I think about 4 to 8 inches along and north of I-70, a fair bet. Now, as we take a look at the next 7 days, I'll ignore the clock thing there. I'm sorry, I've left that in for back over the weekend. The thing to watch for is look at those temperatures really dropping on off. Once we get past that system, we're going to be dropping those temperatures into the upper teens and low 20s for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and it's going to stay below average, about 10 degrees below the norm for the next 7 days. But that'll help keep some of that fresh snowpack that we've got. A bit of context on some of these numbers. We are at about 57% of our season-to-date average. So what that means is on November the 7th, we normally have X amount of snow. We are not quite double that, but we're about 57% above what we would expect to have at the end of the first week of November. So that's good news. And the other bit of good news, for a bit of context on this as well, this is about 1/8 of what we would typically expect for our peak snowpack. Our peak snowpack date is in early April, and this is about 12%. The amount of snow that we've gotten so far here across the state, it's about 12% of what we would expect in early April. So long story short, that means we've built up a sizable amount of snow. It's not just like we've got an inch in a few spots and it's so early in the season we hardly expect any snowfall. So this is just pushing some of those numbers egregiously above. This is actually, we've picked up a meaningful amount of snow here in the mountains so far this season. That's really good news for us here, folks. We're going to get more snow later this week, as I mentioned, so we should keep these numbers about steady. We'll see some melting tomorrow and Wednesday, but again, these numbers should stay steady through the rest of the week, and that's good news. That means we're certainly off to a hot start. It's a good start, though, to be clear. This would be like the Broncos being 2-0 and the Rockies being 8-2 if that ever happens again. Something like that in terms of how to kind of measure that. So good, we're happy about it. Don't get me wrong, but there's a long way to go for us, and we're going to need that snow consistently from Mother Nature to keep delivering for the rest of the winter season. But off to a good start, no doubt about it. Into the mountains, we could get a bit more snow here in Denver. As I mentioned, we picked up 4.5 inches of snow last week. And for context, we didn't have 4.5 inches of snow last year until New Year's Eve. So, hey, some good news, and we've also got some of that nice warmer weather on its way for today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Just watch out for some of those gusty winds. Once again, meteorologist Chris Bianchi. I'll have more details for you at 9 News at noon. Then Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabins in at 4 and 5. Meteorologist Lauren Robinson in at 6, 9, and 10 tonight on the 9 News family of networks. Once again, I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Have a great rest of your Monday. Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus.